Hi, I'm Tori Hageman. I recently completed this landscape painting of a friend's beautiful farm. I'll put a link in the description box below if you'd like to see how I did it. But now I'm getting ready to go back in and add in the Black Angus cows that are actually on her property. There's just something about adding livestock to a painting that makes it so much more interesting. I think it's friendlier looking. It really draws your eye in. So I'm going to give you 4 great tools to show you how to put in animals in your landscape paintings to help it come alive. I hope you'll stay tuned. As I was getting ready to put in these little dots representing cows, I realized that I had never painted tiny little cows in the distance. All the cows that I've painted were closer up, had a little more detail, more shape. They were just more obviously cows. So you would think that painting something tiny would be easier, but I'm here to tell you, painting little dots in the background that look like a cow was a lot more difficult than I thought, which leads me to my first recommendation. Well, given that this was harder than it looks, I highly recommend that you practice. I got out a lot of small brushes, little rounds and flats, and I got out my sketchbook and just started practicing different angles, the cow facing me to the side. It really helps to have a photograph to go by. And I finally ended up with this little small round brush, and that seemed to be the best for me. But gosh, a little more difficult than I thought. Definitely worth the practice. I would say one of the most key factors about this process is making sure that you've got the scale correct. When you look at the painting, you'll see there are 3 different fence lines. That number 1 in the back, see how tiny it is. So putting cows in that section of the painting are going to have to be in scale to those tiny little marks. So those cows are not going to be much more than a dot. If I choose to put a cow near the front, it needs to be about as big as that front fence. So scale is key. I really recommend you find some type of landmark element in your painting, scale the first cow to that, and then make them slightly larger as they come forward. So I ended up deciding to use the smallest fence as my starting point for the cows. So I scaled the cows to that tiny little fence. That way I knew everything that was behind them in the painting would have to be smaller, and anything more forward in the painting would have to be larger. It was a great way to get started. The third suggestion is to keep the placement of the cows organic looking. If you'll notice in the photograph, they're scattered throughout the field. They're not lined up, they're not in a specific pattern. So even in the back of the field where they're nothing more than a drop of paint, I was careful to have an interesting pattern, to have some little clusters here and there, just to keep it interesting and organic. The fourth tip is to use detail as a way of getting depth perception. For example, the cows in the back corner of the painting are no more than a dot. There's no detail. As you come forward, you're starting to get the sense that they're legs. These cows in front, all of a sudden you're starting to see ears. There's one with the tail. And this largest one up front, all of a sudden you're seeing light and shadow. The ears are more pronounced. There's just more detail as you come forward. Hey, 25% of my painting sales goes to build water wells through Hydrating Humanity, and you can partner with me in that. If you'd like to check out my available paintings and also to see my very inexpensively priced courses and tutorials, please check out my website. I'll put a link in the description box below. And if this video has been helpful, I would appreciate a thumbs up. And if you'll click subscribe, you'll be sure not to miss the next free video that's coming out soon. Thanks so much. God bless.